Midwest Whitetail is brought to you by Realtree, HOYT Archery, Fuse Accessories, Muddy Outdoors, Cabela's, Trophy Rock, Scott Archery, Frigid Forage, Rocket Broadheads, Easton Arrows, Redneck Hunting Blinds, Quiet Cat, Non-Typical Wildlife Solutions, Deer Grow, Ozonics, Wilderness Athlete, Grizzly Coolers, RTP Outdoors, and Nikon.
Welcome to Midwest Whitetail. On today's episode, we're going to go to Death Ridge. I'm going to talk about that location, why it's been so good over the years. I'm also going to spend a little bit of time talking about how to read topographic maps and aerial photos. I've got the flyover footage from the drone, and that's going to help us to pull basically the other pieces of this together. So you can see in 3 dimensions what these tools, the topo map and aerial photo, are showing us in 2 dimensions. So first, let's start on the spot. We call it Death Ridge. The stand has a great history, and it has earned that name definitely over the years. Started back in 2008 when Mike Sawyer shot a really good buck in there that we called Stickers. I filmed that hunt. It was one of my first buck kills that I filmed, and I think I was more excited about filming that deer than if I had shot the deer myself. But anyway, so Death Ridge was where Mike killed that deer. A few years later, what was that year? 2011. We killed the G5 buck there, and that was, I think Mike's buck was November 12th, if I'm not mistaken, and my kill on G5 was November 9th. So there definitely was some good activity there for rut hunting. That same day was when we had that encounter where G4 and the G5 buck were fighting, and then the G5 buck came back looking for the doe, and I ended up killing it at close range from the stand. So let me break it down real quick and talk about why it's so good. It's pretty simple, really. I sort of stumbled on it by accident, not because it was so obvious from my map study or my on-the-ground scouting, but really because I started hunting there and realized that the entry and exit was the best part of this stand location, especially for morning hunts. I'm right up on top of this ridge, and I start back here by this house. So my neighbors live here. I park right next to their house, right on this little pull-off into this field. And that serves a couple of purposes. The most important one is the fact that any human activity right around that area is forgotten by the deer or ignored by the deer because they're used to my neighbors moving around, in their yard and in their driveway. So me coming in there, even on a still morning, pulling through the gravel road and parking in that spot, the deer don't pay any attention to it. It gives me a backdoor entry. This is generally a food plot out on the main part of the ridge. So this is where a lot of the activity centers. Even in the mornings, the deer are kind of still out in there milling around, or they're traveling through it. So having a back door where you can come in and hunt that in the timber without having to go through that food source itself where the deer are most likely to be, that's the key to a good morning hunt. So I park here, work my way down through this valley, around this small pond, up a ridge, down another little ridge, past a small pond, up onto Death Ridge, and right into the tree stand. There's a big oak tree that sits right on top of that ridge, and that's where the stands are at. So as you can see, it's all backdoor in the morning compared to where the deer are most likely to be up around the food. In the evenings, it's a little bit trickier. I don't hunt that a lot in the evenings. Once in a while I do, but the deer will tend to bed a little bit more on some of these points. So it's not as bulletproof to get in there in the afternoons as it is to get in there in the mornings. So that's sort of why the stand works as well as it does. I don't know why the deer use that little secondary ridge. I think it's just one way for them to get off the field. There's a trail down through there, and they can work their way back into this other timber in the mornings, especially the bucks when they're looking for does that might be bedded on some of these other ridges. It gives them just a convenient way to move from one spot to another. So that's Death Ridge, and one of the best stands on the whole farm. There's no big deer there now because for whatever reason they're just, the bucks that are in that area either are still young or there's nothing there that's very genetically superior. So I doubt I'll be hunting it very much in the next couple of years unless something pops out there. But I've definitely spent a lot of time there over the years. Now, I'm going to spend just a minute talking about what all these lines mean. And this is a Hunt Terra map, and I suggest you get a hold of those guys. Ben will do a nice job of helping you out to get you something real similar to this where you hunt. But this has the topo map overlaid on top of the aerial photo. So you get the best of both tools. And if you look at it, you can see these lines. And they're all kind of curved and going in different directions, making sharp corners. Those lines are points of equal elevation on this farm. So if you say, well, this line is 960 feet, and then each line next to it is 20 feet above or below that line. So you can start to see how the terrain changes. You get spots where the lines are a long ways apart. You know it's going to be flat there. And you get spots where the lines are really close together, and you know it's going to be steep there because you get those 20-foot drop-offs in a really small amount of space on the map. So it's got to be steep. You look at some of these sharp corners, and you know those have to be points of timber coming up. Sometimes you have to understand a little bit of the lay of the land first, but you should be able to pull up a topographical map, an aerial photo of a place you've never been before, and get almost a full three-dimensional view of what's going on there. So that's, if you look at this, you can see all these little spikes on all these, draws and ridges and sharp points, leading up towards fields. Those are all valleys. You start getting into some of these long and sharp contour changes. Those are going to be sharp or deep valleys, or long type of valleys. Usually at the bottom of each one of those you're going to find a ditch. So I always look for these, and I assume there's a ditch in each one of these long points coming up towards the fields. If there's a ditch there, there's probably a ditch funnel, and for sure there's going to be someplace at the very end of that, at the top, close to the field, where the deer go around that. So that's a real simple first grab at how you can use the topographical map and the aerial photo to predict buck movement during the rut. And we'll come back to this again. I mean, we always say that we're going to dig into the subject, and I know we don't do a good enough job of it because there's so much to explore with these maps and photos. But we'll definitely try to make a point of coming back to that within the next couple of weeks and going deeper into that. But I thought you'd get a kick out of just seeing how this lays out going to Death Ridge, and how simple it looks on paper, but how awesome that spot has been to us over the years. Okay, so next, as I promised last week, we're going to be joining Chef Aaron Neal with another one of his awesome turkey recipes.
Hi, I'm Chef Aaron Neal. We're going to do a play on a chicken marsala today. We're going to see how wild we can get with a little wild turkey tenderloin. Now the tenderloin is on the inside of the breast, next to the breastbone. It's a really tender piece of meat. The only thing about it is it's got a piece of silver skin going right down through the middle. So what you're going to do is grab your knife, cut on the right side of that silver skin, the left side, pull it up, and just take your knife and scrape down it. Remove that skin. Nobody wants to eat on it. Trash. For the rest of our ingredients, we're going to have shallots, minced garlic, mushrooms, butter, chicken stock, Marsala wine. I chose dry Marsala wine. You could use a sweet Marsala if you wanted. I have to have some olive oil. I got a little chopped parsley here. Now this wild turkey Marsala we're going to lay on a bed of linguine. It's going to be a really nice pasta dish. Our first step is to take our tenders, come over here, lay some plastic out. Now these turkey tenders are already fairly tender, but I always want to hit wild turkey with a meat mallet, kind of tenderize it just a little bit more. You want to get it flattened out to about 1/4 of an inch. Not only will this help tenderize it, but it'll help it, now it's all the same thickness, to help it cook evenly. Grab your flour. Now this flour, I've already got salt and pepper mix in here, so that's already seasoned up. I'm gonna go ahead and season this turkey just a little bit more. Salt and pepper mix. Come over here, make sure my pan's hot. It's on its way. Just enough oil to coat the bottom of the pan. Just gonna dredge this. A little bit of flour. You want to shake off the excess. You don't want to have too much flour. Shake off the excess. Bring her over here. Pan's hot. We got just enough oil to coat the bottom of it. Got it on medium-high heat. We're gonna go ahead and drop these tenderloins in there. Got a nice sizzle going on. Now you're gonna cook this 3 to 4 minutes on either side. You can take your tongs and test it. Whenever it releases without sticking, that's when you know it's done and ready to be flipped. If you try to do it too soon, it'll stick, and that's not what you're looking for. Been on there about 3-4 minutes. Gonna give her a little test, see how she pulls. Yeah, she's ready to turn. Got that GB&D, golden brown delicious. Gonna do the same thing to the other side. Now once these set for 3 or 4 minutes, we're gonna just set them off to the side and start working our sauce out of the same pan. Now that it's cooked 3 or 4 minutes on this side, it's pulling off nicely. Got golden brown on all sides. We're just going to set it to the side. We're going to pour off our excess oil. So now all we got is a pan with that stuff stuck to the bottom. That's your sook. Stuff dreams are made of, baby. It's really good stuff. You don't want to waste that. First, grab your shallots. Put those in there. Pan is still hot. Then grab your mushrooms. Put them all in there, let me say. Put some butter. 2 tablespoons. Now the shallots and the moisture off them mushrooms will pull that sook right off the bottom of the pan. That's what you're looking for. It's already turning the mushroom color, giving that good flavor to them. Your shallots, your mushrooms, butter, and you're gonna go with your garlic. All right, garlic, I'm gonna put a large tablespoon in there. Mix that around, put that on the stove, let it roast. Grab your marsala. Pan's still hot. Sauteing the mushrooms and shallots, roasting that garlic. Now you're going to hit it with a little bit of marsala. Put about a cup in there. And you're just going to let that reduce. You can also add a little bit of chicken stock in there if you wanted to. Put half a cup or so. Let that simmer. In fact, I'm going to add these back to it. Let it all kind of braise together. By the time it reduces to half, it'll have a real good consistency. Our noodles are hot, our sauce is reduced. We're going to finish the sauce with a little dollop of butter. Bam. That just makes it a whole lot creamier. Really sets that sauce off. I'm going to go ahead and plate. wild turkey breast. And your marsalas. Mushroom marsala. Finish it with a little fresh chopped parsley. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Wild turkey marsala, folks. I'm Chef Aaron Neal. Good luck and good hunting.
Well, that's it for this week. I'm going to come back and talk about aerial photos and topo maps a little bit more next week. I appreciate you joining me. We'll see you right back here again next week for the next episode of Midwest Whitetail. And remember to always dream big.